tweet. Instead of spending any money on making a noise, we've literally... I reckon when we get like really into the DMs and the deep and meaningfuls, I kind of just like, that's the kind of sound effects.
Hey guys, welcome to another tweaked episode. We are really lucky to be here in lovely Mount Maunganui with our one and only Kenrick.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Kenrick is the master of sand art.
Yeah, so it seems.
He is, the way I met him was through your brother originally, through kite surfing.
You were the guy that I just heard kiting from the beach, like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I love this guy's vibe. I need to be involved.
I was the screamer from the ocean.
It's a good vibe, but when you're around it regularly, it can take its toll.
I heard it from a distance. And
Yeah.
Well, we were going up the mount this morning, and he was a decent enough bit ahead of me because he was running it, and I was just kind of saying morning to people, and I could hear this guy panting, and I was only like 3/4 up, and I was like, he's up there. I can hear him. He's at the top. He's victorious.
Like dying. And I think that was also how I remember seeing you the first time. I think we stopped on the stairs going up Mount.
Yeah, I recognize you, right?
And you're like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh yeah. Like from Instagram.
Time.
Are you?
I did like a 12:59 the other day, and I was dry reaching, like I had to go find a corner, and I saw a mate, and they're like, you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not.
It's so good, eh?
It's those ones where you don't want people to talk to you.
I know.
Yeah, 12:55 the last time.
That's good, eh?
That's good going,
really
man.
good.
That's still...
Years, but I want to get 12 as my, like 11:59 is my thing. But the record's like 8.
How do you do that? How do you run up the mount in 8 minutes? Yeah, same.
I love it.
That's fit. Oh no, welcome. Yeah, so good to have you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we really just wanted to get into talking to you a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that moved me and that made me think of you for coming on the podcast was, I still remember you did one of those posts on Facebook, which was like, hey guys, I've got a friend who's in a wheelchair. I need 5 other people to help me take this guy up.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's so cool.
Cool.
I was like, I put my hand up because I was like, that is so cool. I don't think we ended up doing it at the end, but
no, I took one lady up. She had a knee that was like busted, and she was 60. She'd never been up.
Wow.
So I just talked her through it, and then I held her arm on the way down, and she's like, I'm still friends on Facebook. She's awesome.
And so like, how did you meet her?
Just Facebook. I put it on Mount Notice board. I said, hey, like, I love going up the mount. It's one of my highlights of my week. Anyone else want to do it? If you've never been up before, you need someone to help you or carry you or whatever. Let's do it.
That's so cool. And what hang on, let's break it down. What motivates you to do things like that? Because that's one of the things that I notice about you. Like, I don't see many people going onto Mount Notice Board, which is the Facebook group here, and saying things like that. I remember seeing you do that, and I was like, man, that's really cool.
Lack of impulse control, possibly.
Yeah, but a lot of people are too worried about their ego. When they do things like that, they're like, oh, I'm going to come across this way. People are going to think I'm just trying to be nice for like almost like the greenwashing, but the nice washing kind of thing. But genuinely, it's like you just do that and you make people's I don't
know. I do it quite impulsively sometimes, and I thought I love it, and I wanted to help people, and I'm like, man, like this lady, she's 60, I don't know, never been up. I'm like, could you imagine that? She's lived here her whole life.
Yeah, no.
I'm just like, I just want to like help more people, because I'm like, it's like I'm loving life. Like it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I've got to help more people do this,
So you originally from here?
No, I was born in Wairoa in the Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
So I grew up in Wairoa, and then on a farm at Hamilton, and then Auckland, and then moved to Katikati during 2016. Lived in Auckland and.
Youngest person in Katikati, I reckon you must have been, were you?
Hey?
You were the youngest person living in Katikati.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of old friends now.
They all died, and then you were like, whoa, I gotta move again.
No, pretty much. And then we moved during the second lockdown. We moved to Papamoa, and bought a house there. No idea it was by the beach. And like a week later, we packed up the kids. Okay, let's go to the beach. We packed the car,
Yeah.
And it was like 1.5 kilometers, too far to go. And then we get to the beach, and we're like, that's our house.
Yeah.
What? It's like through a beach access, and so now we're at the beach every day.
That's cool.
It's a game changer. Like, we have an amazing spot here today.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing paradise we live in down here. So.
When I bring this kind of back a few minutes.
Yeah.
I lived here for 5 years
Nice.
before, and I loved it here. Lifestyle was great. It just got a little bit small. I got back from overseas just before lockdown, and me and my partner at the time were kind of looking for work, and it was a bit limited here, so we ended up making the big move at that time into Auckland.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Everyone used to say to me, you meant to go the other way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. So I enjoy coming back here. It definitely has got like a good history kind of part of it, especially when you go up and down the mountain and have a look around.
Bit of nostalgia when you come back.
Right? Like, we lived in Amsterdam and overseas, and we were like, we couldn't handle living anywhere but Auckland when we came back.
Yeah.
It was like food and transport and everything, you know? Whereas now I'm like, I could live in Auckland for the food only.
Yeah.
Nah, I like it here. It's good. It's chill.
Auckland's good for me for the east and west coasts.
Yeah.
And if having kite surfing, having 2 coastlines, it's like, it's just so good.
He likes to mention kite surfing in every episode, just in case.
Just dropping it
Just in case someone only watches the one and they're like, oh, he's a kite surfer, is he?
Just start naming brands. Oh, well,
Do some kite surfing.
So what got you into the sand art? What's the story there?
So wait, to give us some perspective, so Kenrick, you do literally you do sand art, and we're not talking sand art where you make a mermaid out of sand and build it up and people walk past and go, oh wow, you made a mermaid, you know? Like Kenrick does art with a rake.
Yeah,
and then
a rake, a piece of string, and like we're talking 20, 30 meters wide.
Yeah.
It started during lockdown. I take commissions now, so I might start getting that bit.
Yeah.
I draw on the beach, 10, 20 meters, 30 meters wide. I take commissions from brands, advertising, do logos and campaigns and that kind of stuff, but also teach mindfulness and meditation, teach kids, and a lot of kids actually come through, and adults just how to. I teach people to go outside, which is funny. I get paid to go outside. Breathe. I'm like, okay. Hey guys,
I will take your money for this.
Like every time I'm like, you guys can do this on your own. But a lot of people can't, right?
Yeah.
So I do that, and I've been full time since just this year, and it's mental.
So you're full time now.
Yeah, I'm like full time arts. I teach. I'm a teacher aide one day a week.
Cool.
At a school, so I help kids with ADHD. And that's really fun, really fulfilling, really challenging.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time, just doing sand art. So it's wild. It's crazy. I'm like, this is my job. Like, I get to be outside. It's amazing. I get to be in the sun and walking around. So it's really active. I don't go to the gym anymore, and my lats look better than they ever have. They were pretty good to begin with.
A little bit of progress there, you'll take it.
But that's amazing. So it's sand art with a rake, and then just to give people a perspective who might not know this, you would then get a drone, and then the drone flies over, and then you see this amazing 30-meter, maybe bigger sometimes, sand art in the sand.
Yeah, I just did 150 meters for Plastic Free July, and
I saw that. Yeah. So the big question I've had, because I've seen it lots on social media, and I'm like, how do you know what you're drawing? Because you're basically like the pencil on the paper, you know, you're like, how do you know what you're going to be drawing? Because you're not looking at it, you're actually inside the paint.
It's a bit of a mind if. Like, I started doing mandalas, right? So mandala is a geometric pattern. Officially, it's like a top-down view of the Buddhist temple, which is pretty cool. But they exist in all religions: Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism. And I saw tattoos, and I was like, and symmetry is pretty easy. You just do some circles going bigger and bigger, and then you divide that into 8 or 16, and then you do a shape, and then the next one over you do the same shape, and so each circle. So that's relatively easy. You just got to know about your sizes and things, but pretty quick I thought, right, how am I going to get paid? So the first job I did was for TSB Bank and Surf Lifesaving. This was in 2021. And a friend was a videographer, and he was like, I know a sand artist, and they were doing a campaign, and I was like, you want to pay me $1,500? What the heck? This is
That's
awesome.
so cool.
Let's go. So I was like, this might be a thing, you know? And I was like, I don't think I'm destined for a desk job anyway. And so I was like, okay. And so I started, doing more and more stuff. And then Dulux New Zealand contacted me, and they had a team building day, and I was like, okay.
That's clear.
So I knew I needed to do logos, right? I knew I needed to figure out how to do logos to scale, because I'm like, no one else is doing this. If you can have your logo 30 meters on the beach, it's sustainable, it's gone in 2 hours, people love it. I didn't understand how much of a niche I was going to have. yeah, it's a bit wild. I'm still like, what the heck? But yeah, ADHD and the internet, you can pretty much do anything. So
It's so amazing, eh?
yeah, so the drone helps. So if I get lost with a design, I pop the drone up and I go, okay, yeah, oh, that needs to be bigger or that needs to be smaller.
Yeah.
But a lot of like Photoshop and a lot of practice and a lot of gridding.
Yeah.
So you create a design on Photoshop and then you can lay a grid over it. And so, well, it like hurts my brain sometimes, but like the one in Waihi, I measured out the beach. Okay, 60 paces by 120 paces. Okay,
What?
and then put that into Photoshop and then make a grid, make 60 grids. And you know that, okay, a grid is 1.2 meters or something. And so you're like, okay, the big logo has to be 25 meters. So the scale is 1 to 10 in Photoshop. And then you're like, cool. So when it's on the day, I need to do 25 paces. And then you're like, oh, okay, the intersection of the L and the M is on
That's
line.
nuts. So it's actually so like mapped out.
Yeah, it
It's,
is.
oh my God. You're not just like, oh, that's just incredible. That blows my mind.
And you do it all solo.
Yeah, so I have a bit of help. So like the Ed Sheeran one I did down here, had my brother doing that. He's an engineer, Perrin, you know him.
Yeah.
So I've found that people that are like highly detailed, actually hyperactive ADHDers are my like favorite helpers.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, yeah, you want me to rake for 2 hours? Let's go. You know, but
I'll do that for you.
it's got to be highly intuitive.
Yeah,
You know? Like
yeah.
if I've marked something out and then you're raking and you go, well, I think that should be straight. Like you got to make that call. Like I can't hold your hand, you know.
Yeah.
So normally I'll mark out the shape and then I'll have some other helpers. But yeah, that's a new thing. But not usually by myself. Just go hard for 2
Wow,
hours.
man, that's actually.
It's about 5 kilometers. Like if I do like a 20-meter mandala, it's like 5K in 2 hours.
So it takes about 2 hours normally.
Yeah, that's how long I have. So down here,
Because the tides and stuff,
yeah,
I guess,
so
as
I
well.
do an hour either side of low tide. And then, but down here you get like 2 hours up, like Piha Muruwa, you get like 2 hours either side, which is nice.
Yeah.
So then you can, in Waihi, like I was pushing it, started at 7 a.m, finished at 11:30. And then like the waves are lapping on the edge and I'm putting the drone up.
Oh, you're like,
That's
come
what I was
on.
going to ask. There's been times where you just went, fuck it, lads, tomorrow, we're looking at this again tomorrow. I'm walking away from this.
Yeah. When I first started, I was figuring out how to do logos and I'd done the logo and then I like went to get a drink or something. I turned around and there's just a...
Yeah, the ADHD, and then you're like, oh no. Oh no.
But yeah, it's hectic. Like,
Jeez.
to fly the drone, get behind the scenes footage, like doing the work, and then like saving enough 1.5 drone batteries for like the final shots.
Yeah.
The 5-second shot that goes on Instagram. But it messes with your mind. Like the first time that it gets washed away, like I nearly cried because.
Yeah.
But that's all part of it, right?
Yeah.
So like when it first gets washed away, you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But you start thinking, okay, so if it's gone, like I didn't have a drone for like a couple of years. I'd like my favorite spot was around here at the Mount where you could have a little bit of a look up.
Yeah.
I know the one when you go
Next to the harbour
It's
entrance.
amazing. It's probably my favorite because people froth over it.
Yeah. And you see it when you go around the bend. You know when you take that first corner,
come around, you're like,
whoa, that's where you do realize that's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's where I did my first big one. Actually, was
I think I remember seeing that first one on the socials, and I was like, wow.
So it was like Freedom Weekend. It was the first weekend we came out of lockdown in 2021, September. And I messaged a mate, and he's like an architect. I was like, you'll be perfect. I was like, let's go do a big mandala. And I'd never done one that big. Never done one in public. I was like, why not? Let's just...
Really?
Yeah.
And and then somebody saw it, put it in the paper, and then I was like, oh, so I quickly made an Instagram, and then it like blew up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
But I was really confused because this was my like personal meditative practice. So I should actually go back. It all started during the first lockdown. So we're living in Karikari in a retirement village, you know. We had a lifestyle property, and it was really cool. And we would take the dog. This is when you're allowed out, you know. And we'd take the dog down to Waihi Beach, and we had a 1.5-year-old, and I said, "Oh, I'll look after Ivy, and you take the dog." She walked away. She came back like an hour later. She's like, "Are you okay? Sorry, I was so long." I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "But how's Ivy been? I'm like, she's been fine. I had drawn a little sun with my foot, and she like went to the middle, and I was like, free childcare? What is this?
Yeah.
So then I was like, hey, can we go back to the beach? And then 2 days later, I took a stick and I like drew a bigger sun. It's on my Instagram if you scroll.
Yeah.
It's a rubbish sun compared to what I do now, but yeah, and she went to the middle, and I got a hippie friend who does this, and she's a sand artist, and she said, oh, dogs and children always love it. They always come and see what's going on. And I'm like, it's true.
It's so
I did
cool.
this, and then I was like, around the same time, I had been learning about mindfulness, and I'd do like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's like 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, and it's like a grounding exercise, right?
Yeah.
Kind of from the anti-anxiety world. And I'd start to do that, you know, be, I don't know, hanging out and be like, okay, what can I hear? What can I feel? It's really good.
Yeah.
And then so I started doing that. I thought, okay, well, what if I breathe? You know, I was focusing on my breathing, so I was like, okay, and I was like, oh, I feel quite calm and a little bit creative, and it was pushing the buttons of like my hyperactive ADHD, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. Okay. So I did that every now and then. Forgot all about it. Second lockdown. We're living in Papamoa now, right by the beach, and started, you know, losing my mind again.
Yeah.
No job and no friends, and you know.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I was like, I remember what I used to do. So then I went full ADHD.
Yeah.
Just researched the heck out of it, and, you know, internet. And I was like, okay, I need a string, I need a rake. And I started doing mandalas and put them on Facebook, and people were loving them. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did this one around here, and then it blew up. But it was like my thing. Like, I didn't even share it. Like, I just put it on my Facebook, and my auntie would comment, you know.
Yeah.
So proud of you, darling.
But
Totally.
But this is what I think is so important. Like, and I think this is so important when you're going to be doing a business or something like that, is like, or even like socials, I find is so many people are like, oh, who are you doing it for? Like, what do you want to get out of it? And it's like, when you have something like this, which is a passion or something that you've used to like help you, it's not about what other people think. But eventually, like, once you've got it to that stage, which you're loving it, and then you do see people like it, then it's a really good, like, I think, connection between your passion and then potentially, like, monetizing your passion.
Well, exactly.
You know? And I think that's the organic way of starting something amazing, you know, like something that is actually niche, and because you're so hyper focused on it, and you know, and other people are getting something from it. Isn't that just like beautiful, I think?
Yeah, it's confusing. Like, I did it with my photography back in the day. I was like hobby photographer. I was like, oh, I could make money from this, and I like totally ruined my hobby and like didn't pick up a camera unless I was getting paid.
Yeah.
So I have to work really hard with my sand art, where I'm just like, I just go down and I'm like, I don't even take the drone sometimes, and I'm like, I'm just playing, you know. We call it, my wife's an artist, and we talk about, you know, how to succeed as an artist a lot, and we call it unnecessary creating. So the idea of like, I'm not going to create something for a client today, I'm going to just enjoy, you know. And especially with mindfulness, I'm like, I'm going to focus on more how it feels, or, you know, I'm just going to put some sweet tunes on and have a good time, you know. So it's a balance, right? Because otherwise, if you're always creating, if you're always making stuff for someone, you're not doing the thing that led you to it. Out real quick.
Then it becomes work.
Almost too commercial kind of part where you end up just doing it for that.
You have to find joy in what you're doing, otherwise, why are you doing it? Like,
Tell me about the Ed Sheeran one. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was wild. So we work from home, and wife's like, I'm making coffee or something, and I get like a random number, like, and I get heaps of like, I don't know, people trying to sell me internet, you know, and I get real wild.
I thought you were going to say people trying to sell me sand, you know, put out my back to work from home, you know.
Hello, are you happy with your internet service? And I'm like, yes, I'm very happy. Thank you. You know, usually I'm not that kind.
So I can't hear you, mate. You're cutting out. You know, I mean, my broadband's terrible.
So yeah, I get all these calls, and I'm like, I'm about to fire up, you know. And hi Kenrick, it's Jim here from Warner Music, and I'm like, jazzes across the room, and I start flailing my arms. I'm trying to be cool. Oh yes, hi Jim. And I'm like, jazz. I'm writing with my left hand on a paper like, Warner Music, go mad. And the guy was super chill, and he's like, oh, we've got an artist coming up, and we're thinking about a stand-up collaboration. Oh yeah, no, that will work. Shows.
That's all good,
And he's like, oh, we've got an artist, we've got an album release, and we're thinking about a stand-up. Oh, that'll be fine, Jim. Yeah, no, we could talk about that. I can send you some details via email. hung up the phone. I was like, holy shit, man.
That is so cool.
I didn't know who it was. So he was like, oh, it's a very well-known international artist. And he mentioned the UK office. And I was like, okay, narrows it down. So I started scribbling away as like album releases or,
Yeah.
I can't remember what month it was, May, I think. And and so it was for international, it was the release. So New Zealand got a track, so Sycamore, from his new album. It's a great album. And so they gave me kind of a guideline of a piece of art. And it ended up being the Sycamore tree, which is really cool. It's a really amazing album, and they connected with me because of my journey around the mindfulness and kind of personal growth, but also this album is very emotive, and it's about Ed Sheeran's struggles with, his wife had cancer while she was pregnant. And so the song Sycamore is quite a special album to me now.
Yeah.
It's talking about, like, am I going to be pushing my daughter under the tree or, in the waiting room? And it's hectic. So,
wow. That's
it had to be done at a set date. I had like a week to do it. And I said the only time is like a 7 a.m. tide. And they're like, okay, that's fine. We'll send a videographer down. I was like, okay, cool. And so, they sent a really good videographer down, Shay Sterling. He's like done heaps of music videos.
Wow.
And he did an awesome job. So he's like a lot better than I am. So
that's so cool.
I knew I'd be really busy, so I didn't want to have the drone up myself.
Yeah.
I had mine up, but and so I did a couple of practices, and I was like pretty nervous, but you nailed it, and got some really cool footage of the video on YouTube, and so it's amazing.
Walk me through the like, it's kind of, because I mean, we've just spoken about tides and how the tides can wipe the sand out of the way if you don't get it right.
Yeah.
Do you get anxious? Have you ever
Yes.
Have you ever had a low where you're like, I can't do this, like I don't have the time, I've stuffed this up too many times, like have you what's your like?
Not with stand-up, like I'm pretty nerdy. Like I grew up not wanting to be a nerd because I got picked on, but I'm straight nerd now. Yeah. Like, funny enough, on the Ed Sheeran day, Pera and my brother, he sailed around the world, and I was like, oh, the tides. He's like, well, it's actually an exponential curve of spinning. And I'm like, hey bro, we kind of need to focus. Like, I really want to know this, but so no, I had practiced it. So actually, a couple of weeks ahead, the tides, pretty much the same, and so I could be down there. Okay, if it's a 6:30 sunrise, or if it's a 6:30 low tide and a 6 o'clock sunrise, what does 3 hours before look like? And then what is, but like I'm pretty sure on the last shot that the waves are lapping on the edge, which is nice actually. Yeah. But no, I haven't had any major fails, not yet. So, but a lot of practice, right? Like and that's the beauty thing. And for me, I'm like, if I'm getting paid to do something and it's going to be international stage, I just want to do a good job. So I'm like, and people don't know what it is, I didn't write his name in the sand once I found out. Like I went and did a practice and I just like wrote like zeros or something. Yeah. So I was like, oh, what's this for? I'm like, oh, I'm just practicing. Yeah. But just a lot of practice and like a lot of just.
And then you kind of your confidence builds. Yeah, totally. I can do this.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of attention when you're doing it? And is there an issue that you have to, like, if you're looking and going, if he walks across that, he's
oh man,
like, do I have to cone off the area? Motherfucker just walked across my medallion. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, your kid's cute, but I'm gonna kill him if he goes past it again.
Generally, it's okay. Like 1 or 2 footprints is fine. Yeah. I think when I was practicing the Ed Sheeran one, this guy on an electric bike came, because obviously, like when you're there, you're just like, oh well. When you're 20 meters away on the sand, it doesn't look like anything. Yeah. Like, oh cool, some hippie guy in a hoodie is walking around with a stick. Good on him. But then. Yeah, so some guy on an e-bike just came and rode straight through it. And like, I'm normally chill, and that was a practice. But the other day, these people were just like walking. And I teach mindfulness and meditation, right? So I got to be like, I got to.
You're calm, dude.
Walk the talk.
So normally I'm like, oh yeah, cool, just have a little chuckle inside myself. But these 2 older people were walking through, and they were just like walking. They like no idea. And I was like, come on. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And I felt this real stink for like a couple of days. And then they were like, oh, sorry.
You're like, it took me 2 hours.
Like I did a piece for Pride Month, and I knew it would get me some like probably negative attention online, and So I had written like LGBTQI plus, and then it was like a half Mandela sunset, and 3 older people came through and they had like a dog with them, and I heard them. I was sitting like way away, so I wasn't in the thing, but I heard them. They're like, "Oh, it says LGBTQ plus." And then they walked through it, and I was like, "Oh, whatever." Like,
Yeah.
I had got most of my shots. I was like, "Whatever." And then I went down to like have a look at something, and I realized that it wasn't just steps; it was like foot drags.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
Oh.
"Ooh!" And I've got like I'm like pretty strong like with justice.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay, just let it go, Kendrick." And then I was doing some more drone shots, and then they came back, and then they walked through it. Like walk through it once, that's one thing. To turn around and deliberately come through, and they were like, drag marks. So I just fixed it. I was gutted. I wasn't gutted for me. I was gutted for the gay community.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is me drawing on the beach, but this is not who I am.
Yeah.
They're not like having a go at who I am. So
Yeah.
I got pretty gutted, and it was quite sobering. And just challenging, just the amount of hate there is out there.
Yeah.
And
Especially online.
Yeah.
yeah.
As you said, when you post it online, that's always always a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
So it's going. You got a few upcoming things. You probably mightn't be able to talk about a lot of it, but it's going.
No more major artists currently, but Jim, you know where I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're exciting. Always talking with like brands and stuff. I'm excited for Christmas coming up.
Oh yeah.
So with companies doing like, it's a really cool way to do team building.
Yeah.
So that Dulux one I had down here was 50 people. So my class looks like I sit down, talk about my story, teach a 5-minute guided meditation, and then we go into the class. So it's a really cool alternative to going to the pub.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
Like if we're talking about mental health, and like we're talking about like businesses looking after their people, like is going to the pub and just paying for drinks to get your staff drunk a good way to support their well-being?
Yeah. Exactly. It's probably not.
I'm quite passionate about this because I've worked in corporates, and I'm just like, there's no support for people, and I'm like, no wonder people leave.
Yeah.
If you look after your people, you're going to have to hire more people.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
What's that one they usually say? EMC, or what's it called? There is that something about they're available if you need them, but that's usually at the end of the line when you're about to quit your job.
The company counsellor,
EAP is it or no?
Yeah, what's it called?
EAP, but
something like those. Their services are available to you if you need them. Oh yeah, okay. Like I'm on the end of the line here. I'm about to leave, and you're telling me.
Got my CVs out to 20 companies, and
Yeah, I know. I think you're spot on about that. And the boozing part they try and do is for networking, where people, their idea in the history is you have a few drinks, you loosen up, you get to know people.
Yeah.
Also, you probably get massive sexual harassment cases and things go absolutely. A few racial slurs come out, and suddenly it becomes a bit of it's on a different journey. So
HR's like, help us, come on.
we won't include HR there as well. But
maybe HR's the problem.
Yeah.
She really comes out.
Well, I think the HR part you have to remember as well is they work for the business, so they've got the business's best interest at heart, and they got to protect them, and then you're just second fiddle. So they got to take a box. So it's cool. I'd love to come in one of those.
But you also do like school holidays. You have kids come over and do the stand art for school holidays.
I very quickly learned that I wanted to help people with some of the mindfulness and the breathing that I had learned, and so I thought, okay, I can teach this. I've made it up. Like no one has taught me how to do this, so I've kind of figured out how to do the circle Mandelas. So I teach the circle Mandelas, which is cool. So I pretty much do the same thing for a group of 8-year-olds, or I do for CEOs.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a really cool team building exercise. You come together, you're outside. You can go to the pub afterwards. That's fine. But yeah, everybody loves it, and kids pick it up so much. They're like, oh, you want me to draw on the sand? Cool. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Oh, come back. Because adults, they have to like break through their own like bullshit of like, oh no, I'm not creative. I'm like, it's just drawing in the sand. It's gone in 2 hours.
Yeah.
I haven't had a bad experience in the class. Everyone loves it. So, I can do a lot of people. There's a conference coming up. Quoting for that, it's like 80 people.
Wow, it's amazing.
It's like end of year thing. So,
wow.
So it's pretty cool. So who knows what the future is? But
So the mindfulness that got you into it, and even I suppose the two might be connected, is when you had struggles during the lockdown.
Yeah, totally. I'd love to share with that.
And then it's probably from there that you found this piece, and maybe even how you're doing now.
Yeah.
Given that we're out of lockdown now.
Yeah, totally. So I guess it all goes back to, for me, like during lockdown, my wife and I, we've been married probably 9 years at the stage, and we've been having issues for a while. And I think lockdown, I actually really liked lockdown. Well, I didn't at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, man, that pushed me into so much growth.
Yeah.
So we were having issues, and our daughter was like a year old, and it's hard, man, having kids. And I was over it. I was ready to pull the pin, and we went for a walk in the bush, and I said to my wife, hey, if things don't improve, I'm out. And it was definitely one of the lows in my life, I think. And I wouldn't recommend it, by the way. Don't give your partner an ultimatum. There's definitely better ways to say it. Definitely got her attention.
In the bush as well was pretty brave.
Kenrick didn't come back from that walk.
I probably would have chosen a public space myself, but
it was lockdown.
Yeah, I know.
We'd sneak up to the end of the road, like drive 3Ks on our little tiny road, because we weren't allowed out, right? And it was a weird time to be alive, but like it was our time to kind of connect, and it was kind of our time to talk. So, and I guess what the growth part for me came, I was considering leaving it, and I thought, okay, sorry, I've like totally had a mind blank now.
No, you're fine, man. Take your time.
You go through those struggles in lockdown. It's the same for me. Like with my ex, is like the lockdown just exacerbated everything. We just like brought everything that was maybe bubbling under the surface in busy lives. And when lockdown happened, it was like, okay, now you need to face this stuff. It was like, whoa.
Well, I now know that like your closest romantic relationship is going to bring up the stuff, and that's in a way their purpose. I think a lot of people check out too early, and they're never going to get into that growth.
Exactly.
So for me, I was like, okay, what happens if I leave her? Okay, cool. I want a new partner. Okay, how am I going to do that? And I imagined myself, funny enough, down here on Mountain Main Beach, and I'm like, and I'm like, dude, what? You take your shirt off, and like you don't have a tan, you're overweight, like you're a grumpy bastard, like you don't even like yourself. How are you going to find someone? Like your business is failing, you've got no money. I'm like, okay. So it kind of occurred to me that I need to work on this stuff for me. And it's going to benefit Jasmine. It's going to benefit my marriage. It's going to benefit my kid. And I'm like, okay, I'll work on that. And the marriage is probably going to improve anyway. We went to a lot of counseling, and like thankfully, like everything came right, and we're doing amazing. And we're in a really good space. A few months later, she also gave me an ultimatum because it kind of poked the hornet's nest, and she realized that some of my behavior.
But that's so good. Like, can I just jump onto that? Like, being accountable is so good, and someone communicating that and not being quiet about it. Because I think when someone calls you out on your bullshit or calls you out on something where you could be improving, it's a chance for you to grow.
Totally.
And like counseling, I just can't recommend counseling enough. Like it's not even if your relationship's not in a good place, or maybe your headspace is not in a good space, but like go to counseling when you're feeling great.
Way before.
When you feel great, go to counseling. Hey, what else can I do to improve? I think we should be doing all that so much.
And especially as you said early on, instead of when it's in crisis mode, it's a bit of a... And I think it's always trickier for men, I feel, because like I went to counselling as well, even with my ex. We probably left it a bit long, but it is kind of that, I don't know if it's a male thing where it's a bit like, I don't need any help.
Oh yeah,
I'm fine.
But for me, I was like,
I was like,
she's unhappy. I'm really happy.
Well, and that was the whole thing for me. Like, it wasn't like she had her stuff going on, I had my stuff going on, but I wasn't taking responsibility for my actions, and I had some learned behavior from my parents, and she was enabling it, and I was also enabling it because I was doing it, and that was our big thing. So it came down to communication, and vulnerability, and validating each other, and man, we learned a lot. I learned a lot, and around the same time, I was working in kiwi fruit, and I just took any job I could after the photography business, and I wanted to be outside. And I was like, right, I've got 40 hours a week of podcasts. I had Bluetooth headphones, and man, I'd be listening to podcasts, and I think to my credit, like I'm a learner, right? And I have really good retention of information. So I'm like, cool, I'm just smashing a book on vulnerability today. And I'm like, I had some really good like friends in the orchard that I was working with. We're all in the same boat, and I hear across the road like, Kenrick, you okay? And I'm like crying, listening to a Brene Brown book. Like, no. And she's like, do you want a hug? And so we like walk over like half an orchard, have a hug, and then I go back and like put the Bluetooth back on, and then like, see me at lunch. She's like, you okay? I'm just digging into like generational trauma. It's cool.
Yeah.
But seriously, like that was the game changer for me.
Yeah.
I dug into all the hard stuff, heaps of podcasts, heaps of books, and just like, okay, let's go.
Just take it on board and be curious. Like totally. I use this word a lot.
Yeah,
like Owen will be like, Garrick saying the word curious again, but I heard from Gary V. I really rate Gary Vaynerchuk. I think he's awesome. His motivational stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
And he uses the word curious a lot.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of like it's that curious is the word that will help me go and do something new that I've never done before. It pushes me there, and then when you get into that situation, you learn so much about yourself and you grow so much.
Yeah, it changes it from like to like a childlike thing. And I think my personality, and probably yours as well, is like we're generally curious. I think it works really well. There's a technique called the RAIN method, which is self-compassion, and it after you've kind of figured out what's going on, it says, well, can you look at this with curiosity? What is that vulnerable part of you need? Can you look at that with curiosity? And it just changed it from like, that guy was a dickhead to maybe he was having a hard time.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, that's a big one that I learned as well, is you can easily quickly jump and making a conclusion about someone that you spend 15 seconds with. Yeah. And especially I find that like in hospitality, where, people quickly blow up for someone who's been paid minimum wage to just smile at you while you order your coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I don't really, like that's not fair. And quickly make an assumption of someone,
So much stuff going on behind like closed doors that you don't know about.
Totally.
There was one thing, I went to a Reaper did this men's mental health brothers chat. Yeah. So it was like a men's mental health thing. It was in Auckland. Yeah. Went along to one, and it was so good. Cool. All these guys coming around, and it was a space for everyone just to talk about stuff and be honest. And man, some of the stories I heard was like, whoa, that is so like, that really moving.
I think things are changing. Like, it's hard, man. Like men's mental health, or men's health in general. But I definitely see like there's a change happening where guys are learning that, hey, we've got stuff going on.
It's okay we're all humans.
Yeah.
It's okay to talk about stuff. So,
but one of the things that I brought up there though, which like I surprised myself with what I came up with, is that we're talking about, so like how would you get into a better, mental health state? And like, everyone knows the exercise, everyone knows the like having your friends and stuff like that. That all helps, you know? And like there was one thing that just kept going through my mind, and I was like, it is so true. We're all on our phones. Like we're at the age, and we're in 2023, we're all on our phones. Like, I think one of the most important things is you get this algorithm and you get this feed. If you start looking at dumb shit, your brain is going to get fed dumb shit every time you pick up your phone, which is every single day. And I said to the guy, one thing all of you guys could really benefit from here, and I said I had to teach myself this, is the shit you start seeing on social media. Say you don't want to see anymore. Say I don't want to see any more of this.
100%.
Yeah. And then go and follow influencers. We'll talk about influencers in a negative way.
Yeah.
But how about this? Influencers that are going to change your life.
Yeah.
Go and follow that person, like Jay Z and Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah. Follow those guys, and then when you pick your phone up first thing in the morning, and everyone says it's a negative thing, imagine if it's this guy saying, "You're amazing, go and do this."
Totally.
How much
challenging?
Exactly.
100%.
It's the smallest thing we can all do to make such a big improvement to our lives.
Yeah. Go and follow 20 or 30 accounts.
I thought you were going to say tweaked, but carry on.
If you could write that in the sand, we've got a few hours. We can put that in the sand. That will be.
I'll teach you guys.
We'll give you 5% of the business. We've already given away 10 to get this luxurious apartment for the morning.
Hey,
so
it's worth it.
It's look, we're gonna ride this storm out as much as possible. I've got distracted so many times by some of the people
today.
Yeah. And I've been distracted by how many.
Funny enough, I actually did this a couple of years ago. Like I heard this. I think it might have been Gary V or something. But I went and followed like 20 challenging accounts. Jay Shetty's one of them, Brene Brown, And so, my phone is now full of like amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And the algorithm is great because it'll push out girls
Exactly.
with bikinis to you, or it'll push out like amazing like mental health, change your life.
Yeah, like stuff that's going to help you grow.
You're exactly right, because even when I first joined Instagram, which was only like a few months ago, because I wasn't big in it because I just didn't like the socials.
Get out now, man.
It was just all like I said to Garrick, it was a lot of, I'd rather see people who are a bit more real, like because I knew people on Instagram and I see some stories before and I'm like, I know them, they're not doing very well,
real life,
but this is telling me that they're doing it amazing. But I went to talk about like algorithms and rabbit holes. I ended up getting like lost in the whole transgender sports discussion, which I'm completely like open to, but I was just interested in sports and hearing different scenarios. And suddenly, man, that algorithm, you can go down. You're in. You know what I mean? You can go down a slippery slope there with that. Like I was like, show me the tits and where's the tits and ass again? How do I get back to that? How do I get out of this one?
Like, okay, if I just watch this for like 40 minutes, like this again.
Yeah, but now I'm doing heaps of running, and literally it's just all running. But it's right. Like and we've said this so many times is misery loves company, company loves misery.
Yeah.
And it's who you surround yourself with those people as well.
Totally.
If you know that negativity part is just
and
like...
the only way to get out of that is curious. Like the only way anyone's going to get out of that is being curious. But it's true. If you're not curious, you're like, well, these people are right and I'm not going to change my way of thinking. But as soon as you're curious, like maybe there's a different way. That's it.
What you read, who you hang out with, what you look at. I think what you look at on a phone is huge.
Yeah.
You know?
We've noticed, we've been doing quite a bit of different running groups and communities in Auckland, and we've been kind of running with these early, even mid-20s, guys and girls, but there's definitely been a change in some of their guys where they are very open about their mental health, how they're feeling. Like a lot of them, they don't drink because they know once they drink, bang, the anxiety kicks in. So they're like, and I was very surprised when I went to it. And I remember there was one guy, we've actually got him on the podcast before, and he was like speaking about it. He lost a friend to suicide, how he's dealing with things. And then someone said, he's 22 or 23. And I was like, whoa, like that's...
He was so mature and so like, he had been through the wars and been through so much, but he is just so like amazing, like his growth was just incredible. But now, like, so we've spoken about, maybe some of the challenges that you've had along your journey. What is the highest high that you've had? Man,
I was thinking about this. Like Ed Sheeran, like comes up, like that was hugely validating of what I've done.
Yeah.
Some of the travel we've done. So we traveled a lot after we got married. Like the Mayan pyramids in Mexico, Teotihuacan, like you're standing in an amphitheater that's thousands of years old, or like Venice, like when we were in Venice, it flooded. And it floods every 3 days, like 100 times a year. But I'm like, what the heck, man? Like this is, like children are amazing. My like doing the Mount Everest challenge for the first time. 38 times up the mount.
So what is Mount Everest? 38 times
38 times in 50 days.
Whoa.
So I did it as like a challenge for myself. But for me, even like running my first half trail marathon, like last year I did Blue Lake 24 hour, which is my first half. I didn't do 24 hours.
No, but I know the Blue Lake Compad is a beautiful challenge.
Doing it this year. And then I did like the Mount Foundation half, 3 times up, 3 times around. It's like 800 meters gain.
Jeez.
And I did Tarawera, and I'm like, that was a big challenge for me, like a big push.
Yeah.
So there's a high. I've got ADHD, so I'm like the next shiniest thing, like this is
you're like, oh, this is
I'm about to go for a run. Like, an ice cream
next.
We knew that, so we took all the shiny things out of the apartment before he got here because we thought it could be. But you're going well now. You're doing well. The mind's good.
So good, man. Like I think from I was working the Kiwifruit job, and I was listening to heaps of podcasts, and I guess that was me investing in me. And having kids, like you have kids, and then you start parenting them, and then you're like, hold on, I'm parenting the way I was parented, and I don't like that. I don't like who I became because of that, or I don't like how I felt when I was disciplined that way. But then you're like, how do I do this? Like, they call it reparenting, because you're like, you begin parenting your child, and then you're like, hold on, I wasn't shown that love. oh, and then you start digging into all that.
You start like backtracking, looking at your life, and I've done that. Just like the reflection mode, where you reflect and you go, okay, my life, how where I was raised, and then I was like, oh, that behavior's come from
you
there.
Start questioning stuff, and you're like, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I wouldn't treat this amazing human that's in front of me like this.
Yeah.
You're like, but I was treated that way.
Yeah.
And it's so deep inside of us. Like, my dad used to yell and be angry and have a temper problem, and when my daughter's like wanting like a cup of milk for the 4th time, you know, and I'm like, no, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, I hate that about me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's deep inside.
Yeah.
So reparenting pushed me into a lot of like kind of digging into my shadow stuff, and just to become the person that I wanted to be for me and for my wife, I had to dig into my trauma. We were talking about trauma before. I don't think I've had any like capital T abuse, trauma or anything, but just like generational parenting, being parented by parents who weren't loved, and
it's like
you know, like they pass that down. They do their best. They pass it down, and then but. Look, that's not how you build a happy, healthy brain.
Yeah.
You know, my ADHD diagnosis was pretty huge last June.
June only.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so 37.
Whoa.
I probably would have diagnosed you sooner than that.
But,
I'm joking.
no. Hey, dude, I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did I not pick this up?
Yeah.
How did I get through the school system?
Yeah.
It didn't exist.
But you know what, then you mentioned that a good friend of mine, Danny, who we're hoping to have on the podcast now as well, who's got a bit similar story to you in a couple of ways, but he's actually, I think, is now being tested for ADHD.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At early 30s as well, to be like, I think it's quite recent.
And so
how was that?
Walk me through ADHD. So just explain that, like, because I think I know ADHD as being like you just can't focus on one thing. You get distracted.
You've got it.
Easily. Like, I think I do. I could easily be on it, like somewhere on the spectrum.
So there's a couple different types. So there's hyperactive, impulsive, and inattentive. So I'm hyperactive, impulsive. So I like shiny things. I like doing stuff.
Yeah.
I've kind of got the gold card ADHD, because if I need more dopamine, I can just go and do it, right? And my brain, I think through behavior as well, has learned that like run good. I feel better after a cold swim, you know?
Yeah.
How I actually got diagnosed is doing the Everest challenge. So every 2 days before work, 6:30, up the mountain twice, jump in the cold ocean in April, you know? So I now know massive dopamine. Like with up and down the mountain twice in 45 minutes, and then jump in the ocean. It's an hour, and then go to work. I was sky high for 2 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
We know about cold swimming. It gives you the same amount of dopamine 10 times as cocaine.
Really?
But instead of 20 minutes, I've never done coke, but I've done a lot of cold swimming, but it's slow release over 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you need.
It's a little bit cheaper as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like the other day, I joked and I said I just did a line of the ocean. And I'm like, so dopamine is a really cool chemical. It is the main chemical for motivation and movement.
Yeah.
So kiting, dopamine, massive.
Maybe I'm the same as you.
Endorphins. No, we all like this. This works for everybody, right?
Yeah.
It comes from picking berries back in the day when we were cavemen. You find a red berry, a little bit of dopamine, and it tastes good, sugar, dopamine. Yum. Okay. But then, and then cortisol kicks in, stress hormone. I'm hungry again. I'm going to go get some more dopamine. Right? Yeah. And so we go up, we come back to homeostasis, back to center, and then we go down.
Yeah.
And we're always juggling to get back. So I'm no doctor, but from my understanding in the ADHD brain, if everyone else gets like a cup of water and we pour some dopamine in, you get to enjoy that for the afternoon. Mine's got holes in it.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with the mechanism, and it drips out. So if I get a whole cup of dopamine, I might only get half.
Yeah.
So you can add more. Easiest way is just to add more dopamine.
Yeah.
So I'm on stimulants.
Yeah.
So take a couple of those every day, and they top up the dopamine. Or you can use like an SSRI, like anti-anxiety pills.
Yeah.
And they kind of stop some of the holes.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah. So had to pay lots of money and get diagnosed, but game changer for me. My whole life I thought all you guys were normal. I thought I was normal, and I thought you guys were all a bit like, let's go for a walk.
Like, hurry up.
That's interesting, eh? It's to see it from the other,
So at 37, I'm like, why are all my friends so rubbish at texting back?
Yeah.
Why do I want to go for a run all the time?
Yeah.
You know, and turns out I'm the one that's just looking for more. But it means I've done some cool, crazy stuff in my life. Like, sheesh, man. In one season, I climbed Mount Ruapehu freehand.
That's so cool.
And then a week later, broke a vertebrae in my back on Mount Ruapehu.
Oh my god!
So like, this guy, friend, we were snowboarding, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to? Like 2:00 in the spring, we'll climb up to the top of the crater." I was like, "Yeah, sure." Look back to it now. I had my snowboard on my back and just gloves, no crampons, no ice axe, and it was like pretty sketchy
because it's icy.
Yeah,
it's an icy mountain.
I was using my screwdriver from my thing, and then we like got to the top and then like snowboarded down. But I'm like, I said to him after, I said, why did you choose me? He goes, "Oh, I knew you'd be stupid enough to agree to it." I'm like, dude.
So, what drove you to get tested? Did you have an incline? Did someone mention?
I was doing this Everest challenge, and I was like, I look back now, and I was like, I was at my best, you know. I was like, smashing work, and like I was being really attentive at home, and all bloody da. And then literally the morning I finished the Everest challenge, I did it in 36 days because my boy was being born, and so I hustled it like real faster. And I finished it at 7 a.m. and at 7 p.m. that day he was born. Wow. So I went from sky high dopamine, fun, exciting every 2 days to 3 months of having a newborn, you know, which is just like grind it out, go to work, come home, not much sleep. And so all my dopamine went, and I was like, why am I depressed? Why am I like sucking at life? And they say a lot of people have that. It's like when you have your kid or something happens, and it's just life gets too hard.
Yeah.
And you just need a bit more. Went to the doctor, and no, you're fine. You've got a job and a wife. You're stable, so you have to go private. Mental health foundation, you know. Yeah. Because they got to worry about people jumping off buildings. And, So I went through private, and pretty cool.
That's cool.
Doctor, and
again, comes down to curiosity though, like, and being like, oh, is something going on here?
Totally. I did the research, and it's been a game changer for me. Like the stand art wouldn't have happened because I ran my own business and I thought I failed at it. Yeah. Because I was a photographer and I was editing. I was editing for like 40 hours a week. That's terrible for me. Yeah. So when I'm doing the stand art, I'm like on fire. I'm loving life. I'm like, okay, flying a drone, doing this, planning this. It's down to the like.
It's your dream. Accuracy. It's your dream, mate. It's so cool.
Yeah, and everyone's got to find that. Yeah. Everyone's got to find their thing that just lights them up. And I'm like, that's what life's about.
And the way you find that, being curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a cool story. I think it is a cool story how you kind of almost only fell into it, you know, that kind of way where you kind of like, this is pretty cool, and you gave something a go. It's not like you were, as a child, you know, where you got a skill or a talent, you got a great voice, or you're athletic, and suddenly you're kind of like, oh, if you just push yourself a little bit more or have a bit more drive, you can do it. So it's a pretty cool, and good on you for getting even diagnosed, because I think a lot of times to spend money, like I wouldn't even spend money, like I'm missing a toenail for about 4 years, right? From running, it grows back, and halfway through its life cycle it decides to go. Useless, I don't want to be involved with this person, and they just leave me like everybody else. But I won't spend the money on it because I'm so tight, and I also I don't really want to know the outcome either, because I'm feeling okay.
Yeah.
Hey, they give you stimulants though.
Yeah.
Hey,
so expensive stimulants actually, to be honest.
So it could work.
I think like I've found who I am, and I think now I relax into it. You know, like I'm like, I like bright clothing. I like shiny things.
Exactly.
I like going up the mountain with my Pit Viper sunglasses on, with no shirt on, running as fast as I can in my pink shorts. Yeah. People look at me like, what the heck is this guy? And I'm like, stimulant.
Yeah, you're just being you, but and like, not caring about what people think.
I'm old enough, man.
Yeah.
I spent 37 years of my life like mucking about trying to please other people. Yeah. And I'm like,
good head of hair for 37 though. Good curls as well.
Yeah, there's a little hole up here.
Is there the curls?
On the odd drone shot, I'm like, no, I'm doing
move that. Oh, but you know, man, I think you're a great advocate, even to because I don't really know many people with ADHD. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, cool.
So I think it's a great way to be able to see someone who's got it, who's happy-go-lucky guy. Who's doing well for himself, and it actually hasn't been like an Achilles heel. It's actually it's got to you. It's almost like a skill set.
Yeah,
having ADHD. Having ADHD.
Now it is.
Yeah.
But, like I was terrible at school. Like I failed like third form English and maths and just kept failing.
Yeah.
But then I went to uni and I got 97% on a 3-hour theology exam. And the tutor's like, hold on, you said you were terrible. And I was like, I thought I was dumb. But ADHD is a hyperfocus.
Yeah.
So if we're into it, stand up.
Let's do it.
We're all in. Like to the point where my wife's like, are you all right? You're going to pick up the kids? And I'm like, what day of the week is it, man?
Oh, man. Kenrick, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This has been so good to have you on the show.
And I haven't even talked about half the stuff.
It's just so good. Like, it's so good to hear this different like perspective and
thank you so much for having me.
and everything you're doing with the sand art and it's been so good.
Yeah, we'll share a few of the clips.
Anything else you want to add before we close up?
I'd love to actually share about mindfulness.
Yeah.
And about meditation, because I think I grew up in a Christian home, and meditation was like that evil new age stuff. And I was telling someone the other day that at 37, I found calm for the first time. And it probably coincides with having some meds.
Yeah.
Because the meds kind of slow everything down a little bit. But for me, like I can, in 5 minutes of calm breathing, I can get to a state where I'm like, and it's an amazing zoom out from your bullshit. It's a zoom out from all your problems and so I teach box breathing, so 4-4-4. So count on your fingers, breathe in for 4, can't do it now because I'm talking, but breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and hold for 4. You do that for as long as it takes. What's going on in your brain, because I'm a nerd and I love it, but it really helped me. So we have a thing called default mode network in the brain. So it's really good for planning, creativity. It's also really good for getting stuck in rumination, round and round and round thoughts. Yeah. Garrett looked at me weird, or Garrett didn't send me the address for the apartment until 5 minutes after, and this can go round and round and round your head. And I think ADHD is, we're quite bad with that, but I think other people as well, anxiety is not reality. Anxiety is, I might get fired on Monday because I did something on, Friday. Depression is, like this is all stuff going around in our head. Yeah. So the opposite to that, they've proven it in brain imaging, is task mode network. Okay, so task mode is literally like for doing a task, and it's like a light switch. One is on, one is off. So you can get out of default mode network and that rumination, that round and round, by giving your brain a simple task that takes up enough of your brain, and this turns on. And then,
it was kind of like I did the ice bath, the ice community, and my whole body was just going, get out of this ice, Garrett, get out of this ice. It was pain. And then they say, just focus on your breathing, and you just focus on your breathing, and then you start just focusing on your breathing and not the pain. And you get through the first 2 minutes and you're done. You know?
Yeah, so for me, like, it's been a game changer. I would love to help more and more people get to understand my mindfulness. Like, if a hyperactive ADHD guy can meditate, I think anybody can. So many people, I think people are scared of what they might find in their brain. But also maybe the stigma around it, like meditate. Everyone's like, you've got to go to the hills and be a Buddhist. So what I do, and I've been trying to actively challenge this, is I set a timer. So we live like 2 minutes from the beach. So I walk down and I set a 5-minute timer on my phone, and I turn my phone off, and I know that I can do 5 minutes. I started doing it after work, and I was running, going to the gym. I stopped drinking because I wanted to run more, and I was like, well, how am I going to cope with all my bullshit? So I started doing meditation, but in 5 minutes. And so generally on a good day, if I haven't had stuff going on, I might do three rounds of box breathing, and then I'm chill, and then I just like sit there, eyes closed or eyes open, and I just focus on like, okay, can I follow that wave going from left to right? Okay, there's a dog there, there's a bird. But it's like a holiday for your brain. It's profound. Like I can't explain it, but like we need that. Like just like we need sleep, we need our brain needs to just like
switch it off sometimes.
I mean, like all the stuff that you were worried about before you went down there,
it's gone.
Do you know?
Some days it takes longer.
Yeah, there's 2 parts on that. I was a couple of years ago, I was really struggling with a lot of anxiety, where it was like really bad, where I was having like almost panic attacks. And I went to my doctor about it, and he talked me through it. And I was definitely a little bit depressed as well, so he gave me some meds. But he recommended this breathing specialist, and I was about like, sorry doc, I think you're misreading this. It's the meds, isn't it? And he was like, no, I want you to go and see this breathing specialist.
Amazing.
And I did, and it actually was. It was like, it was similar exercises to that, where when you are going through that kind of it's obviously you're not breathing well enough, and it leads to like a bit of a panic attack part where you have to release. And it was similar exercises like that, and I was a bit like, wow. And it's even when I'm a bit of a nervous flyer.
Yeah.
And it's even doing those breathing, how actually the breathing part does calm you down. And I was so amazed about how powerful it was.
Yeah, so what's happening with anxiety especially is imagine you have two gears, right? And one is our mind and one is our body. And so say you're flying, your body is like, oh yeah, chill, but then your mind's like, wow, and it's going really fast, right? And for gears to work, you got to slow one down.
Yeah, that's such a good analogy.
And doing the five, it works if you understand cars.
Yeah.
Like you got to get these two things to mesh. So if in doing a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can taste, 1 thing you can smell, something like that. You bring these two together. So you either slow the body down or slow the mind down until they're together, right? Because what's happening if you're a nervous flyer, your brain is probably going, and then your body goes, what's going on? This is fight or flight. Maybe I'll increase my breathing. Yeah.
It kicks on. And then the other part, which I actually loved that I saw it on Instagram was, I love Matthew McConaughey, and he was saying about how his I think it was his dad or his granddad for advice, and his granddad said, something like, I had many crises in my life, and most of them didn't even happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I was massive for this, where I used to overthink things so bad that I used to build this up. So once I think of something, I'm going to have to action it or put it aside. And I think a big thing that we should actually promote really to people who are watching is to give the breathing exercise, give the mindfulness, the meditation a go, and
was this
get out of your comfort zone.
Is this going to be the challenge? Because we do a challenge after every podcast we do, and the challenge maybe for everyone this podcast would be like in this week after you've listened to this podcast, maybe go and just like challenge yourself to maybe doing some sand art or going and giving yourself 5 minutes and doing this box breathing, you know.
So I'd recommend start with a guided meditation.
Okay.
Because otherwise you get bored, right? Generally, and you think that your brain is gonna, you're not gonna want to know what to do. So if you just Google 5-minute guided meditation, and if you put stress or calm or anxiety or depression, whatever you want, there'll be hundreds. Find someone's voice you don't hate. You're like, welcome to the and you're like,
Morgan Freeman would be ideal. Morgan Freeman, beautiful.
But just try that, and they'll guide you through it. And I did that for probably a year using guided meditations.
So cool.
And then but don't do half hour. Because that's crazy.
Yeah. Like do 5 minutes.
Like how long do you sit on your phone looking at, Gary Vee or Girls in Bikinis,
You looked at Duo when he said that.
He was obviously inclusive.
Yeah.
Is what he was doing.
But just try it, and like you're not going to have crazy stuff come up. Like you're not going to have your childhood trauma jump into your head. You're probably just going to go, oh, that's a nice bird noise.
Yeah.
And then the stuff that you do, maybe you go, no, that's all rubbish. Or, I need new tires for the car. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah,
that's
man,
so
we'd
good.
love to appreciate your time, and I think we definitely have you on again in the future. So I think you've got
a lot more to go.
I love your energy and appreciate the storytelling as well. And it's been a good chat.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks,
really
guys.
appreciate it. Dude. Thank you. It's really, really good to have you on.
Yeah.